Good evening. Welcome, everyone. My name is Monroe Franz, and I'm Senior Associate Vice President for Global Engagement and Inclusive Leadership at New York University. It is my wonderful pleasure and actually really just a fun opportunity for me today to be in conversation with four amazing scholars that are going to really blow our minds away in an analysis of Prince's work, his legacy, his artistry, his complexities, everything that he's contributed to art form in many different ways. And they're going to just give us different frameworks to think about his legacy and the artwork that he's done over time. Our first speaker is my dear friend, Stephen G. Fullwood, who is someone whose work I've followed for many years. And I'd like to introduce him, who's a New York City-based documentarian, artist, and writer. The title of his talk this evening is I Can't Get Next to You, on Prince's Love Symbol album, right? And during this talk, during Stephen's talk, please feel free to post questions in the Q&A box at the bottom of the screen in the right hand side. Not in the chat box, please. Not in the chat box, because we won't be able to see your questions. Please drop those questions at the end of all four presentations. We'll have an opportunity to engage you and your questions that you bring forward. So with no further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Stephen G. Fullwood. Welcome, Stephen.
Thank you so much, Monroe. Thank you so much for that lovely introduction. I'm going to share my screen, good people. Thank you all for coming today. And from there, we can get started. And hopefully this will be worth your while. And let's see. And can everyone hear me? Yes, everyone can hear me. Great. And so I Can't Get Next to You. I'm going to talk a little bit about Prince's Love Symbol album. It's always a pleasure to join the most wonderful, the most awesomest on high, D'Angela Duff, who continues to gather us into these spaces with love, attention, and supreme tech talent that I actually envy very much. It's an honor to be here to talk about Prince, someone that we all care about in some regard. And I love this ontological exercise where we get to think and rethink Prince every so often, in this case, through his albums. And so there's my beloved D'Angela Duff. And oh, yeah, you, Prince, how you be? Here's to you, my friend. I hold you and your music in my heart and in my imagination. No other musician has tapped and shaped the dynamics of my creativity like you. No one. That for over 40 years I've lived with, been inspired by, and indeed have been saved by your music. Many of your earlier albums were the soundtrack of much of my life, and I'm forever buoyed by your sonic brilliance. This presentation is an exploration of ideas and concerns I have with the Love Symbol album. Ideas that inspire, enchant, and in some cases trouble me. Today's breakdown, no women, just girls. I told you should let me rap, and all right, cut, fade to black. And before we dive in, I want to kind of give some context to what an artist does for us. And so we currently live in a society where we are dominated and shaped by capital realism, a society designed to curtail, crush, or co-opt any freedom of expression not authorized or in service of the capitalist desire and agenda. Here especially is a moment that we need our artists to go to work, to imagine, to create. At art, it at best is magic. It inspires us to reach the impossible, the unimaginable. And so in that case, I give Prince all of my love and all of you artists out there doing this really hard work, doing this very difficult time. Keep in mind as we enter the Prince verse that there are so many ways to enter this thing. It's a sphere, less so a circle. And in 1991, when I was living in Toledo, Ohio, and attending college, this was the time when the tracks from the Love Symbols were being recorded. And the US was in the thick of the crack epidemic, the AIDS pandemic, the war on poor people, not the war on drugs, the Persian Gulf War, house music, techno, hip hop, the rise of Black cinema, gang violence, mass incarceration. And what we were feeling were the effects of many dismantled government programs designed to help people. To top it all off, My sister Cynthia was dying of leukemia. Where were you when you first heard the Love Symbol album? Before it was released in October of 22, the single Sexy MF was released in June of the same year. I had the CD. Do you remember that gun, the gun microphone? Yeah, I remember that too. Here's what I currently love about the Love Symbol album. I think the horns are freaking amazing. Really, I do. They knock me out. And I'm a big fan of Eric Leeds and Atlanta Bliss, or Eric Leeds alone and their contributions to Prince music, but the horns on this album are spectacular. I could listen to the music on this album in general without the singing. That's how good it is to me. I think the ballads are really good too. Sweet Baby reminds me of the soft balladry found on Prince's first album, For You. In fact, I think Sweet Baby is kind of crazy. You have a listen to it. Blue Light is lyrically fun, playful, and I think the only reggae flavored song that Prince ever produced. You purple people would know better than me. Damn You is in the genre of Prince genre ballad stuff. The key of Scandalous, Call My Name, Insatiable. This man can write a ballad in his sleep. Now, I love The Morning Papers. I think it's a great sing-along song. It's very anthemic. I love this song despite not knowing what the hell Prince is actually talking about. And give me that guitar solo any day. I love it. And I don't mind the addition of zills, AKA finger cymbals. And to be honest with you, this album didn't really resonate with me that strongly in 92, but then re-listening to it for this presentation, I Want to Melt With You and the Max became very interesting to me. I was like, okay, the music, again, is really, really tight. I want to go into my first section, which is No Women, Just Girls. And this is a note about women both on the Love Symbol album, but also in the Prince verse. Why is AIDS just a number when it comes to love? Hello? What do you mean Rosie's out the band? When? I miss Rosie Gaines. I love her voice. I loved her on the songs Diamonds and Pearls, Get Off, Cream, and later with Nothing Compares to You. Any song she co-led or glazed with her vocal icing made it better. Rosie was Prince's sonic equal. I enjoyed her luminous authority, a quality she contributed to Prince's overall sound at the time. And I'd like to point out that many female singers and musicians who collaborated with Prince over the years, who sang co-leads or backgrounds, in some cases it was a little bit of both, Jill, Brenda, Lisa, Wendy, Sheila E., Susanna, Bonnie, they often brought a loving communal quality to those songs. 1999, Erotic City, 17 Days, Girls and Boys, I Love Bazaar, Paisley Park, Sometimes It Snows in April, and more. And particular, Bonnie and Rosie brought the Black church into the mix. So hold on to that for a second. Even before the Love Symbol era rolled in, singers like Rosie, along with musicians and vocalists and dancers who sort of helped Prince establish himself, were gone. And in my humble estimation, maybe, just maybe, except for Sonny T and Levi Caesar Jr., the adults had left the house of Prince. It was a big band in many ways that felt like a smaller community. And in their place, well, let's talk about the women. The teenager Mai Tai. Oh, excuse me, I'm a bit behind on my things. The teenager Mai Tai. Prince's muse, a Puerto Rican belly dancer. She turned 18 a month after Love Symbol was released. Then there was a protege, Carmen Electra, who met Prince when she was 18 or 19. And although her album was released in 1993, the bulk of it was reportedly recorded around the same time as Love Symbol. Featured prominently on Love Symbol, Mai Tai's exotic look placed her in the pantheon of Prince's public romantic interests: Denise Matthews, Vanity, Sheila E., Troy Baird, Jill Jones, etc. Her belly dancing prowess introduced yet another component to Prince's image and, for a moment, his music. Like the light-skinned Black women, mixed race, or multiracial women he publicly cavorted with in the past, Mai Tai's look continued in the tradition by selling a woman of color for audiences who need to see themselves in the music. Light, bright, damn near white. This puts me in the mind of the construction of the pre-revolution, the Rebels, how careful Prince was about crafting not only his look, but his band's look. He knew that the market that he was breaking into, pop music at the time, was shaped by a white-run record companies who saw Black music, and indeed Black people, only capable of doing R&B, soul, gospel, but not mainstream. On the Symbol album, Mai Tai engages a Middle Eastern fantasy where she can be an Egyptian princess and, well, he could be Prince. I think what Mai Tai's contribution to Prince's visually and sonically, he really kind of enters an era where women were almost solely romantic fantasies and no longer musicians or singers in the band. My pal Carla told me once that there were two primary ways in which Prince sang about women. Yeah, gross generalizations, I know. Saying that he either wanted to protect them from the world like delicate flowers, or they were irresistible bitches who had broken his heart. He realized that she was new to love, naive in every way. Every schoolboy's fantasy she was. That's why he had to wait from the morning papers. But did Prince wait? This is not that kind of presentation, but I'll go on. Despite Prince's petiteness and past flirtations with androgyny, his lyrics revealed what he thought about women, or at the very least, what was on his mind. Vanity Six's Susan character for me serves as a template for many women Prince would produce over the years. Beautiful, but not the greatest of singers. Vanity's character was too possessed to be a Lolita teddy bear hugging type. The disastrous misfire with producing model actress Carmen Electra as a rapper made me wonder if Prince ever respected the work and talented of great rappers. MC Lyte, Azealia Banks, Lauryn Hill, among many talented folks. It's serious work. I think from here, we want to look at, there he is. We want to go to Graffiti Bridge, where the title of this section is called, I told you should have let me rap, Prince's capitulation to hip hop. Of course, everybody remembers Graffiti Bridge and T.C. Ellis, who throughout the film was bothering Prince really to let him rap. In a way, that kind of happened, not with T.C. Ellis, but obviously with the newer incarnations of his band. Graffiti Bridge can be considered ground zero when it comes to Prince and hip hop. Sure, there was Irresistible Bitch, Dead On It, and maybe even Sign of the Times. And if you squint, you can kind of see where he might be going with this. Graffiti Bridge, The Rise of the Game Boys, T.C. Ellis, Scratching, single remixes with Tony M leading. It was a dark time indeed, literally and figuratively in the temple. Shortly thereafter, hip hop figured more prominently into Prince's sonic vocabulary. And look, remember the gun mic. But consider who was charting between 1990 and 1992 in terms of hip hop: De La Soul, MC Lyte, LL Cool J, Public Enemy, Two Live Crew, Digital Underground, Salt and Pepper, EPMD, and the DOC, among many. And from 1990 to 1992, I couldn't shake the feeling that Prince was capitulating to a market primarily dominated by Black men. And I don't know about you, but I never got over Dead On It because it was hilarious. It was Prince being snotty. Imagine having the ability to play over 24 instruments, several of which you have masters, only to be upstaged royally by a silly rapper talking silly shit. The timing couldn't have been worse for Prince. There, of course, was the Minneapolis sound, but hip-hop was a cultural movement. Stardom came for Prince in 1984. He had released an album every year since his debut, and hip-hop came in like a motherfucker, and record companies were pushing his youth-focused music because it was selling and it was street. When Diamonds and Pearls dropped in 91, disenchantment set in like arthritis. And I went along with it. 23 positions in a one-night stand. Let a woman be a woman and man be a man. Like, who's standing in the way of a man or a woman being a man? Anyway. So, mind you, my hip-hop interests were in Public Enemy and other relatively conscious, non-sexist, and non-homophobic rappers, of which there were quite a few. Tony M, who I think is a capable rapper, wasn't my taste. He didn't really sway my ear, and his content was basic. His style and delivery held no authority for me. It was like listening to someone rap way down the street. I mean, you could hear the words, but ultimately it was just simply hard to hear. With the Love Symbol album, the lean into hip-hop was a stiff one. And more than any other commercially released album, the Love Symbol album is a transitional album to me. Although Prince's band was always morphing and changing post-revolution, feature players seemed to be a thing of the past, or rather used less frequently. There were no personalities in the key of a Sheila E., Jill, or Lisa. Prince was also on the precipice of leaving Warner Brothers, and up until that point, arguably the longest relationship he has had with anyone in his 28 years. We also saw less androgyny, which was sad because the beacon that Prince appeared to be garnered him a large fan base of queer folks who always loved him and always will. Now, cut, fade to black. Maybe Prince believed the hype. Maybe he thought that Black folks had deserted him. That was what the media was saying. And wasn't that how George Michael's Faith won an American Music Award for Best R&B Artist in 1989, edging out Michael Jackson and Bobby Brown? Sign of the Times and Love Sexy weren't even nominated. Wasn't that part of the spirit fueling the creation of the Black Album? But like I believe one of those wonderful Cummings sisters said in a past event, Black folks never left Prince. Of course we did. And after the revolution, over time, Prince's band became Blacker, then Mo Black, and then Black Black. Black, like the first edition of the Counter Revolution, featuring members of the family, most notably to the irritation of the revolution, Jerome Benton, Wally Safford, and Greg Brooks, known as the Bodyguards, and then became Mo Black, Sheila, Bonnie, Kat, Miko, Levi, Wally, Greg, and then Black Black, Rosie, Sonny T, Tony M, and the Game Boys. Kind of the reverse of what he was going towards in the first. And so the first one was created to break in the market, the first band. And then this band was sort of chasing the market. The optics were clear. If I'm on to something, I think I am, but you can tell me if I'm wrong. Black folks don't need to see themselves in art to appreciate shit. That's some white folk stuff. Lastly, I want to say this, that when I was a college student, I wrote about the Love Symbol album. It was my senior year. And my kid, as I'm listening to the album, I'm in the kitchen, washing dishes, and I'm blasting Sexy Motherfucker. My kid comes in, he's 5 years old, over here to the right, and he taps me on the shoulder and he goes, I don't think I should be listening to this album. And to this day, I laugh and think about how we raised him, but also how Prince had become such a big part of his life that when Prince died, he called me crying. Not because he loved Prince, because Prince's music had impacted him through my own love of Prince. And with that, I will end it. Thank you very much.